Carrie has been coming here to Sunflower probably for the last 10 years, at least, every year. Carey has his own business, runs it out of his home in Glendale, where he builds computers, fixes computers, and he has developed a tremendously good reputation. Carey, I will put in a plug for him. He has a service. If you have a problem with your computer, he will come and pick it up, take it to his shop, fix it, and bring it back and reinstall it in your park lot for $125. Heck of a good deal. I have used him twice with great satisfaction. So, without further ado, Carey Holtzman.
Well, that's some heavy expectations I got to live up to now. Well, thank you. It's a kind of introduction. I appreciate that. I guess we got more people over here than over here. Where do I stand? Well, I'll be pacing back and forth, and that way I can see who's sleeping when I don't see the heads move. My name is Carey Holtzman. How many of you have seen me here before? Almost the whole room. How many haven't? Oh, quite a few of you. Well, welcome. Hopefully I will see you again, and this will be our regular thing. I'll tell you a little about myself. I'm a computer repair technician, and I've worked for places such as Intel and APS and SRP, and got sick of working for the man and became self-employed, and that led to me writing a book, which took me on a tour of all these computer clubs, but it's never ended, I guess, because the book was back in 2003, 2004, and it hasn't been updated or changed since. But I found I really enjoy sharing information, sharing my knowledge, and as a member of the Phoenix PC user group, one of the things that used to really bother me is when we get a presenter, and normally it's somebody from the company who's there to sell you something, and they would turn down the lights and they put on PowerPoint and they would say, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. And that's about the time when I got up and walked out. So a lot of times, now Sunflower knows better, but a lot of times folks at computer user groups who are booking me will ask me, what's my presentation going to be about? And I say, I don't know. They go, well, I got to put something in the newsletter, right? I said, well, I tune my presentations to your audience. Rather than me talking about something you may not be interested in, I would much prefer if you raise your hand and ask questions for whatever on your mind, and I'll do my best to answer that question. And that way we'll get a variety of different topics. And whatever question you have, chances are a number of other people in the room probably also have the same question but weren't brave enough to ask. So don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask a question, please. If you do that, if you participate in this, you will enjoy it more than if you just sit and watch. Now I'll get things started by saying I can anticipate, and this is the first presentation I've done now since, I don't know, since fall, since spring, so it's been a while. I'm out of practice. But I know what's going to be on your mind. I know you're going to want to know about Windows 8. You're going to have questions about Windows 8. So let me start by talking about Windows 8, and then if a question pops in your head, just go ahead and raise your hand, interrupt me, that's fine. A lot of people want to know if they should upgrade to Windows 8. And my answer to this every time, whether it's Windows 7, Windows Vista, is you never upgrade to a new operating system. You buy a new computer that comes with it. That's the best way. If you have a Windows XP computer now, it was not designed to run Windows 8. You will not have a good experience. The computer, if you bought a little car to tow a little boat, and then you bought a bigger boat, but you didn't change the car's gonna have a harder time pulling that boat. You may not be able to get it up a hill. It wasn't designed for that big of a boat. These operating systems, as they evolve, they get bigger, more resource intensive, and should be easier to use. Now, if you're running Windows 7, you could upgrade to Windows 8 without a problem. That much I can assure you. If your computer's got enough power to run Windows 7, it'll run Windows 8. But why? What will Windows 8 do for you that Windows 7 doesn't already do? Now, this was the same question I asked prior when Windows 7 came out, and people said, should you go to Windows 7? What's Windows 7 going to do for you that Windows XP doesn't already do? And they often said, well, I don't know, that's what I want you to tell me. Well, if you don't know, then you're not missing anything, leave it alone. But there's a condition. Traditionally, Microsoft rather, comes out with a new operating system every 2 to 3 years. If we go back to the days of DOS, there was DOS 3, 4, 5, 6, and there was about a 2 to 3 year progress period between versions. Even Windows 3, 3.1 to version Windows 95, 98, 98 second edition, Windows Millennium, all these were 2 to 3 years apart, even Windows XP. And when Windows XP came out, Microsoft made a mistake. They made it really, really good, and really upset their shareholders by not releasing an update or replacement to Windows XP for about 6 years. That was double the amount of time. And by then, of course, more and more computers are bought every day, so it becomes really saturated in the market, and people don't want to let it go. And the software developers and the hardware developers had lots of time to get to know the operating system and make things really work, to work all the bugs out. And then they introduced Windows Vista, and they kind of pushed it out under pressure to the shareholders. And a lot of things that were promised in Vista got yanked in order to meet the deadline. And a lot of people didn't like Vista. And they fixed it through service packs, and they've also since upgraded to Windows 7, again, the 2 to 3 year time span. And again, 2 to 3 years since Windows 7, there's Windows 8. So, if we look at the history of things, Windows 95 was good, 98 was good, 98 second edition was better, Millennium was bad, XP was great, Vista was bad, 7 is good, Windows 8, it's too early to tell. The problem with going to a new operating system isn't that you're waiting for Microsoft to work the bugs out. I mean, they've got more people beta testing the software while it's in development than the number of people that own DOS in its entirety. It's not to say it's bug-free. Every operating system will always have bugs, indefinitely. There's always going to be bugs. But what you're waiting for at this point is for all the software and hardware manufacturers to catch up, to make their software and their hardware compatible with Windows 8. For example, if you were to go to Fry's Electronics or Best Buy and buy a printer, more than likely the driver disk in the box, probably doesn't have a Windows 8 driver on it, because Windows 8 relatively just came out, like October 28th. So they're still moving all the old stock from the warehouses and the store shelves. Your existing printer, or your existing scanner, or any other thing that you're plugging into your computer, webcam, may not have a driver compatible for Windows 8, which would require you to either wait indefinitely, if the manufacturer then decides to make a driver, which they have no motivation for doing because they've already profited from that item they sold you a couple of years ago. And they want their employees, their developers, to be ready for their latest stuff. But sometimes they will go back and they will make the driver. You have a choice at that point to either replace that thing that's not working or to wait a year. And if a driver hasn't come out in a year, it's probably not going to come out. So generally speaking, it's best to wait about a year after a new operating system comes out so that all the existing hardware and software companies have time to make their stuff compatible. And that may mean you have to replace some things. There may be some software that will not work in Windows 8 that worked in Windows XP, and there may be other software that worked in Windows XP that worked fine in Windows 8. Only way to know is to just try it. Now, I still use Windows XP myself. I've got Windows 7 on the laptop, but my home computer still uses XP. And that's well and good. If you're still using XP, it's perfectly fine. Don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't be running it. If it's meeting your needs, that's all that's important. But support for Windows XP ends in April of 2014. So in just over a year, Microsoft will stop releasing updates. You know how you get those automatic updates? Those updates are very important. They're protecting you from all the latest threats and exploits that hackers will use on the web to steal your information or get control of your computer. That's not to say XP will stop working in April of 2014. But every day after support ends, it'll become more and more vulnerable. And then after about 6 months to a year, you'll find there's no antivirus for it anymore. Nobody makes it. And if you go to the store to buy a new printer, or you buy a new scanner or a webcam, it won't have a driver for Windows XP anymore in the box. See, just the opposite will happen from what I described with Windows 8 being so new. You've got an operating system that's not only old, it's obsolete. I'll give you an example. Is anybody here running Windows Millennium? Windows 98? Windows 95? Why? Because it won't work. I mean, it'll work, it'll install, and you'll be able to get all the latest updates to the point where it stops, where Microsoft said there's no more updates. But good luck finding any software that's going to run on it. Good luck finding any printers or scanners or webcams or antivirus. Nobody makes it anymore. And so that's what will happen to XP gradually. After support stops in April of 2014, it will gradually start to occur. So you want to have Windows Vista, Windows 7, or Windows 8 before then. That's my recommendation. Don't wait till the last minute. Now, I know there's a lot of questions about Windows 8. I've heard some stories already when I was getting set up about some frustrations using it. One of the things I do in Windows 8, one of the things a lot of people don't like about it is they got rid of the start menu. And they put this Metro interface thing on it. It's really, they try to put a smartphone on a computer, which is backwards if you ask me, but you know, there are sacrifices we make on a portable device like a smartphone in order to have it there in this little compact thing that we can have with us. And what they want to do is kind of make it seamless to go from your smartphone to your computer. That's the logic behind it. Well, I don't use a smartphone. I have just a regular old-fashioned flip phone. I get laughed at for having it because I'm a tech guy and I'm supposed to have the latest and greatest. I don't know about you, I use a phone for making and receiving phone calls. If I want to get on the internet, I use a computer. If I want to text somebody, I don't know, are we going back to Morse code now? I don't get it. I don't get it. I guess it's a sign of age. When you don't understand what the kids are doing today, it's like, you know, you can talk to people now. It's a lot easier. If I want to take a picture, I've got a camera for that. If I want to use a GPS, I have a GPS for that. And my camera takes better pictures than the phone. And my GPS is more accurate, easier to program than the phone. So it's almost like they give you a bunch of things that don't really work well and they put it all together. And I almost feel like at some point, you're going to have to remind somebody they can use that as a phone. It's like duct tape. You know, somebody's got a ripped duct and they're like, hand me the duct tape. They're like, oh, you can use duct tape for that? That's what it was intended for. Oh, all right. So there's a fix for Windows 8 to give it back the start menu. It's completely free. There's actually a number of them, but the one that's free is at classicshell.sourceforge.net. And what you can do with Classic Shell is get your start menu back and get rid of that Metro interface. So as soon as your computer boots up, it boots up to a familiar desktop with the start button. Hallelujah. And when you go to the start button, you can make it look like a Windows 95 start button, you can make it look like a Windows XP start button, you can make it look like a Windows 7 start button. And there's a bunch of other things. The shell is a geek term, and it defines the interface that the user uses to talk to the operating system. That's called a shell. So Classic Shell is giving you the classic interface. It's completely free. Now there are other interface shells out there that cost money that may even be more powerful than this. SourceForge is a community of developers who do everything for free, and it's all open source, and they take donations and things like that, and everything's transparent. So you can see they're not putting a virus on your system, and other people can contribute and make the product better, give the product other features. So if you're going to run Windows 8 and you don't have a touch screen, which are really expensive, by the way, the touch screens, at least the ones Windows 8 requires, then to me that whole Metro interface doesn't make any sense unless you're going to be touching it, swiping things. Swiping things with a mouse is just very unnatural. It's not intuitive. So for every Windows 8 computer, I think they should have Classic Shell. I predict that when Service Pack 1 comes out for Windows 8, Microsoft will automatically determine if you're on a tablet or a PC. And if you're on a tablet, you'll get the Metro interface, and if you're on a PC, you'll get the classic desktop. Or at the very least, we'll give you the option instead of having to download programs like this. These programs are really popular right now. And typically when other third-party developers have popular programs, Microsoft says, hey, I have an idea. We should do this. Other than that, once you get your desktop and your start button back, it works an awful lot like Windows 7. I actually think it runs a bit faster than Windows 7 on the same computer that had Windows 7 on it. However, because you may have software and hardware that won't yet work with Windows 8, I would not go to Windows 8 yet unless it was forced on you. And forced on you means your computer's dead or it costs more to fix than buy a new one, and the new one's going to come with Windows 8. If you absolutely do not want Windows 8, you can buy a computer that comes with Windows 8 Professional. That's intended for businesses. And because businesses have customized software that they require to do their daily chores, whatever it is they do, they simply can't have an operating system forced upon them or they won't be able to work. So many of the professional versions of Windows 8 come with something called free downgrade rights. We've heard of upgrade. Downgrading means you can get Windows 7 Professional for free and replace it on the computer for Windows 7. Now Windows 7 support I don't think ends until 2020. So Windows 7 is going to be around for quite some time. I think the mainline support ends in 2017, I think. And then the extended support, that's where Microsoft still releases updates, is good until 2020. So by going to Windows 7 today, even though it's 3 years old, it's not like you're setting yourself up putting good money after bad. That operating system would be good for the life of the computer. The ideal situation is that you are prepared and you are aware that XP support ends in April of 2014. That's not this April, but the April after this April, so a little over a year. And that before that April occurs, you have a solution already in place. Because otherwise, you will be, right now you have a choice, for example. You could get Windows 7 if you wanted it. Even if you had to pay for it separately, they're still selling it. In a year and 2 months, Microsoft may not sell Windows 7 anymore. You might just have Windows 8 shoved down your throat, whether you like it or not. And that may not be a bad thing, but it's just something to consider. Sort of the stick with the devil you know or the devil you don't. Now, with that little brief introduction about Windows 8, does anybody have any questions about Windows 8 or have any experiences that you want to share? Yes?
What's this UEFI?
Okay. What is UEFI?
What is UEFI?
UEFI, this is going to be fun. Every computer ever made, well, every PC, has a basic input-output system, or BIOS, that's part of the CMOS, or the complementary metal oxide semiconductor. UEFI is the user extendable something interface, is the next iteration of that. Basically, the BIOS is what's built onto the motherboard. And the BIOS is what holds your date and your time, and it knows, you tell it what hard drive you've got, what optical drive you've got, how much memory you've got, power saving features and things like that are all configurable in the BIOS. And in the past, the BIOSes have had to be updated because they've reached mathematical limitations. For example, back in the day, you couldn't get a hard drive bigger than 540 megabytes without a newer BIOS, which would require a new motherboard with a newer chipset. And then there was another one where it was like 2 gigs. You couldn't get a hard drive bigger than 2 gigs. They had another, the way they were calculating out the drive mappings could be maxed out at 2 gigs. Now with the UEFI BIOS, that's the screen when you first turn the computer on. It'll say press delete to enter setup. That's your BIOS. And the new UEFI BIOS will allow hard drives larger than 2 terabytes. So for right now, you can go to the store and buy a 3 terabyte hard drive or a 4 terabyte hard drive. But you can't make Windows XP see it, use it, or even boot from it without some special third-party utilities that sort of fake it, and trick Windows into using it. But Windows will never, we shouldn't say Windows, XP will not boot to it without some high-tech solution. The UEFI BIOS resolves that in combination with Windows Vista and Windows 7. Because remember, when Windows XP was written back in 2000, I think it was released in 2001, no one dreamed of such a large capacity hard drive. And even if they did, they wouldn't have been able to predict how they were going to calculate that out and how it was all going to work. So it's just the next iteration. It also helps with USB 3.0. So most of the computers you see with USB 3 are going to have that UEFI BIOS. It's not strictly saying that, but generally speaking. And the old BIOSes have been carried on since, well, they haven't really changed much. They've added features to them, but it's still all keyboard based. You have to use your up and down arrow and your keyboard. The UEFI BIOS is all graphical, and you can use your mouse in it. So if you can use your mouse in your BIOS, you have a UEFI BIOS. Basically, any new computer you buy today should have a UEFI BIOS. It's just the next generation of how the computers are, and it's actually the biggest step since the traditional BIOS. It hasn't changed since the PC came out in 87, I think it was 87, 88. So we're looking at more than 20 years, and they've been talking about it for a long time. We're finally seeing it. I just built a computer and had my first experience with it just 2 months ago. And it pretty much looks the same as any other BIOS, but it's prettier. It's not just text. And like I say, you can use the mouse in it. And using 3 and 4 terabyte hard drives now is no problem. Using Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8. You wouldn't want you could get a UEFI BIOS and put Windows XP on it, but it'd be kind of silly. Because you have to put all these patches and updates and drivers to basically to teach Windows how to talk to all this new stuff that it was never designed to run with. So that's what that is. You guys really don't need to worry about that. It's really more of an engineering issue, and it's more of a people who like to do things called overclocking, where they want to push their computer to run faster than it was designed to run, tend to like the UEFI BIOS better for reasons that make that easier. But for regular, ordinary, normal users, yeah, all you need to know is it's the latest and greatest thing, I guess. It's good to have. Yes, sir.
Could you, with the size of the hard drives now, could you partition them and run both 8 and 7 on the same computer?
Yes. You could partition a drive. Partitioning is something we really used to do back in the day when it used to save space by partitioning a drive. Nowadays, that doesn't really occur. In fact, you don't even necessarily have to partition a drive. When you install Windows 8 and it detects you have Windows 7, I believe it'll give you the opportunity to dual boot that, where it'll come up with a menu and say, do you want to start XP or do you want to start 7? However, you could partition it, and you could do it that way. You could also use 2 different hard drives. You could also create what's called a virtual machine, where you could install Windows 8 inside of Windows 7 and run it like a program. Just have a Windows 7 icon on your Windows 8 desktop, or Windows 8 icon on your Windows 7 desktop, and you could run it. A little window will open, it'll show it load, just like a computer inside of a computer. It's kind of slow to do it that way, but it doesn't require any partitioning. Some people are confused about partitioning. There was a funny ad I saw once that that showed toilets lined up, just bare toilets, and then the word below it was, "Does the thought of no partitions frighten you?" So, a hard drive partition is where you're basically taking a real hard drive and you are partitioning it. A real hard drive has to have at least one partition, and that's generally what most computers have. They just use the whole hard drive. But then you can partition it and create a virtual second drive or third drive or fourth drive. So let's say you've got a 500 gigabyte hard drive. You could partition that into a 200 gig C drive and a 100 gig D drive and a 100 gig F drive and a 100 gig G drive, or however you want to move the sizes. The problem with partitioning is you have to set a size. And should you ever run out of space, you're going to have to, you're basically putting voluntarily setting a self-imposing limitation on the size of the drive. Again, we used to have a good reason for doing that back in the day, but with the NTFS operating system, I generally, in most cases, do not recommend more than one partition. But if you did want to run Windows 7 and Windows 8, I would certainly, you could do that, put it on a separate partition. That would be an exception to the rule. Generally speaking, I think you should pick one or the other. I think when you run two operating systems, and you start your computer, it says click here to start Windows 7, click here to start Windows 8. You've got to install everything twice. You got to put Microsoft Office on Windows 7, you got to put Microsoft Office on Windows 8. You got your bookmarks and Explorer on Windows 7, you got to have your bookmarks on Explorer. Everything's got to be done twice. So, in my opinion, it's best to pick one or the other, rather than try and live with both. But that's me, I'd say lazy, but I'm going to say efficient. It sounds better. Other questions? Quiet room? Yes, sir.
I'm interested in Skype, and I'm wondering, up in Michigan, we're in a rural area, can I use Skype on Wi-Fi?
Skype, yeah. How many of you are not familiar with Skype? Oh, this is a surprising number. I've actually demonstrated Skype here in the past. Skype is this great application you can use with your speakers and a microphone to talk to anybody else who has Skype anywhere in the world for free. You can also pay Skype a few dollars, and you can make phone calls using your headset and microphone and call somebody's phone, but that costs money. But it's cheaper than a traditional phone call. So the question is, can I use Skype on a MiFi card? The MiFi card is a cellular air card. And the answer is yes. Skype also allows you to do video at the same time so you can see the person you're talking to. Now, depending on the speed of your MiFi connection, you may not be able to do the video, but the audio should be just fine. Video, hard to say. You'll just have to experiment with that. But absolutely, for voice, no problems at all. When I was here last year or the year before, I did a live Skype call to my friend Ewan in England. And we brought him up on the screen and say, okay, there he is, he's in England. What do you want to ask him? You know, what's the weather? Okay, it's cold and rainy, it's England. Didn't have to get on Skype to tell you that. Anyway, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to stay in touch with people. I use it to record my podcast, myself and my friend Mike Smith. He's in Philadelphia. And we do this podcast called Tech Vets, Veterans of Technology. He's been an IT manager for a large corporation for, I don't know, he's got more than 20 years experience, and that corporation was most of his experience. I've got more than 20 years. Together, we've got over 50 years of experience in tech, but we've never actually met each other face to face. And when we do our show, I log into Skype, he logs into Skype, and then
I'm Mike Smith.
and I'm Carrie Holzman, and this is our New Year's Eve live podcast version of Tech Vets, and it is being brought to you by the... And anyway, that's clear as a bell. You wouldn't know we weren't in the same room together, and we're separated by thousands of miles and a couple of hours in the time zone. And like I said, never met the guy face to face. So if you've never used Skype, highly recommend it. And again, anybody else who has Skype, on their computer, anywhere in the world, you can talk to for free. And you can see them if you have a webcam. Or if they have a webcam, you can see them. If you have a webcam, they can see you. Either way. So in short, yes, Skype should work with your MiFi card. Yes?
Hang on.
I'll bring you the mic.
I had Windows 8 or Windows 7, went to Windows 8, and now I've gone back to Windows 7 because I had too many problems with Windows 8.
What kind of problems?
I bring up a screen and I click on something and it wouldn't take me where I wanted to go. It'd take me someplace else. It was a pain in the butt. But my real question is, in Windows Mail, I have a Gmail account. I wanted to go through Windows Mail. It comes in 3 times.
I'm not familiar with Windows Mail. I've never used it, but I am familiar with Gmail.
That's what everybody tells me.
And there is a free alternative to Windows Mail you could use called Thunderbird. And it's from Mozilla, which is a nonprofit. I believe they're a nonprofit. And they make open source software. They make Firefox. You might have heard of Firefox. So if I just type up here, let me just type get Thunderbird and see what it does. There it is, Mozilla Thunderbird. And you saw I got to it, right? I just went to Google and typed get Thunderbird. Thunderbird is a relatively small download. Have you ever used Outlook Express?
Yeah.
It's just like the old Outlook Express, except more powerful. You can teach it to identify spam, although Gmail's going to do that for you automatically really well anyway. You can put your Gmail account in there, set it up easy peasy. Gmail even has a walkthrough on how to set up Thunderbird. If you go to Gmail's help section, and basically you're just putting in your email address, your password, and then the incoming and outgoing Gmail servers, and it's set up. And then once it's set up, you're good to go.
Originally why I did it is because I had another email address that has since closed, and I wanted them all together.
Sure.
But I can go to Gmail, it's just having to go into Windows Mail.
Yeah, I've never used Windows Mail. However, if you had another email address, I would have suggested you go to that email address website, whatever website you go to check it, go to the settings and click forward, and forward all incoming mail to your Gmail account, and then it'll all go to your Gmail. And then if you wanted to check your Gmail, you could always do it online, or if you don't like the way it looks online, because it's kind of a weird interface, you get the more traditional look with Thunderbird. And Thunderbird's completely free, it's completely safe, it's not going to affect your computer. You can try it and determine if you like it or not. And if you don't like it, you can remove it. So definitely worth checking out. It's been around a long time, it's got a good reputation. I recommend it, I have a couple of customers that use it. I still use the old dinosaur Outlook myself, but Outlook is, $100. This is free. Yes, sir.
Now, I know there are some ways you can do it, but I want to know how you do it. When you want to talk to someone on Skype, how do you arrange the time and the date and so on?
Well, Mike and I, the guy I do the podcast with in Philadelphia, will send an email to each other. Do you want to record Tuesday at 8? Okay, 8 your time or 8 my time? He'll say 8 my time. Okay, that's 6 my time. No problem. I'll see you Tuesday at 8.
Yeah, and I have a daughter in England, and I just ring her, and we set a time, and it's like 3 cents a minute, so it's no big deal. Thank you.
I mean, I've got Skype on here, I can bring it up, and we can see if anybody's on. I mean, that's another thing, is when you're home, you can just start Skype, and people can see if you're available, and they can reach out to you. Because you can just leave it running. My liar, it's not on here. What a great opportunity to show you how to get it. Just go to skype.com, and it's a free download. And right up here it says downloads. Click on that one time, and you can install it on a computer and on a mobile phone and a TV, all this other stuff. Obviously, we want it for a computer. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. It says get Skype for Windows. That's exactly what we want. And right there, you'll see it's downloading. This is Google Chrome I'm using, if it looks a little different to you than Internet Explorer. And that's from Google, obviously. It's just another browser. A lot of people really like it. They say it's a lot faster. And it's a 20 megabyte download, and as you can see, we're almost about halfway of getting it. And once we've got it, we can install it. Once I install it, if you haven't before, you will need to create a name and password. Register. It's free to register. And that's the name you're going to tell people to connect to you. So I mean, if you're my friend, his name is Mike Smith. So I don't connect to Mike Smith. He's got a unique name, just like a name that you'd have for email. And I know it's him because it shows the city and state, so I know that's him. And then once I connect to him, he'll be on basically like a buddy list. He'll always be on my list of people, and I can see when he's online and when he's offline. And if I see he's online, in theory, even if I haven't made pre-arrangements to connect with him, I could try and talk to him. I mean, if his Skype is running, that suggests to me he's in front of his computer. He might be busy, but here it shows the download is done, so I'll click once on it, and then we'll click Run to install it. And then there it goes. Select your language. Run Skype when the computer starts. I don't want to run Skype when the computer starts. And then there's the end user license agreement you have to agree to that nobody ever reads, and even if you did read, it wouldn't make any sense. And then this always bothers me when you download something and it tries to put other stuff on your computer. So I always uncheck these things. I don't want to make Bing my search engine. I don't want to make MSN my home page. So don't just click next through it. Slow down, read what it's trying to do, and prevent that from occurring. Now we're just going to get Skype. It'll just take a moment to install. After it installs, because I'm already registered with Skype, I just put my name and password in. And there's no limit to the number of computers you can install this on. If you have computers here and elsewhere, you can install them on all of them. And it does take a minute to install. Who was from Michigan? Huh, a lot of you. I'm not alone. Okay. All right, so there we go. Now it's gonna set up here. So it's already installed. My Skype name is Carrie934. My password is blah, blah, blah. And then it should sign me in if I put the right password in. Uh-oh. Wait, yeah, okay, that worked. And check your sound. Yeah, that's fine. Continue. No, just close it, we're done. And I'll change this view, turn off Skype home. I want the compact view, that's what I want. You want to get rid of this. Okay, let me close this. Now we've got Skype installed. That was how difficult that was. And as you can see, there's these little green checks here. So this is the Echo Sound Test Service. This is how you can make a test call to basically the Skype. And you say something and then it plays it back to determine if you can be heard. And if you can be heard, then it works and you're free to make calls. Usually you only do that during the first initial setup. It looks like my friend Jeff is available if I want to call him. And all my other friends, you can see they're kind of outlined there, but they're not solid green, they're just the outline of the green. That means they're not signed into Skype right now. So I can call them and leave a message, just like a phone if I want to. And that's another way you can reach out to somebody.
How long will Skype be free?
What's that?
How long will Skype be free?
How long will Skype be free? Well, as I recall, Microsoft bought Skype. eBay had it. And eBay kept it free, and then eBay sold it to Microsoft. Prior to eBay, it was owned by AOL, I believe. So it's changed hands a number of times. It's impossible to predict. However, I don't anticipate that business model is going to change anytime. Basically, If you want to call somebody using your computer to call a phone or a cell phone, you have to pay for it. If you want to call somebody in another country, it's cheaper to do that through Skype. If you want to call somebody who's also using Skype, that's free. That's a business model that I don't think needs changing, but this is Microsoft. There's no way to know. It's always been free, always.
Is there a free software package?
Hang on a minute, please.
Is there a free pass-keeping software that you would recommend?
Yes, you know, it can be difficult to remember all your passwords. Or you use the same one, which you shouldn't do. And there is a free one called LastPass, which is available at www.lastpass.com. And they also have a premium version they want $12 a year for. That gives you more features. They'll like back your passwords up online. However, as good as LastPass is, I think RoboForm is better. And the first year for RoboForm is $9.95, and every year after that is $19.95. And with RoboForm, when you pay the $9.95 for your first year, you get a product called RoboForm Everywhere. There's no limit to how many times you can install it. You can put it on any number of computers you want. It automatically backs up all your passwords encrypted to their website. So if you were at a friend's house or a cyber cafe, you could go to RoboForm's website, log in with your RoboForm name and password, and have all your logins available there. What I like about RoboForm, I think I've got RoboForm installed on here. Let me show you. Let's bring up the browser here. Yeah, so there's my RoboForm guy right there, right? And if I go to logins, you see I've got a lot of passwords I need to know. And it even says down here, next page. We only got to the keys. So let's say I want to go to eBay. So if I click here to go to eBay, I have to put what's called a master password. This is the only password you have to remember. This is the master password for RoboForm. When I put that in, it'll now take me to eBay's website, and then it will put in my name and my password automatically, and then it will hit sign in. How cool is that? The other thing is if I make a purchase, if I want to go to Amazon, I'll just use Amazon as an example. And let's say I add something to my cart. I don't know, just put anything in there. How about a Kindle? And now let's check it. Oh, it's not in there. All right, I gotta pick one. Let's pick the expensive one. What? Add to cart. Sure, let's add that to the order. Now you'll see I've got 2 items in my cart, right? So if I want to say to proceed to check out, I already have an Amazon account, but let's just say I've never shopped Amazon before. I click I am a new customer and click sign in. I am a new customer. Oh, I gotta put my email address in. Basically, I can go to RoboForm here and it will fill that in for me. Right here where it says Carrie Holzman. That puts my email address in. And what I was trying to get to was where it gets to the shipping info. It wants the street, city, state, zip, phone number. I hit where it says Carrie Holzman up there for RoboForm and it auto-fills that in. I can even put my credit card information in automatically, but I don't trust RoboForm with it. I mean, it's secure, but I'm just not comfortable. I'll put my credit card information in, it's not that difficult. But the whole street address and then, shipping address, billing address, it'll just fill all that in for you. So, pretty handy. Now, LastPass will do a lot of the same. And LastPass, for the premium version to sort of work like RoboForm, is $12 a year, whereas your first year RoboForm is $9.95. But then LastPass is only $12 the second year, where RoboForm is $19.95. But I think RoboForm is the better product. If you're looking for free, LastPass is it. So once again, that's www.lastpass.com. They've been around about 4 or 5 years, and they're reputable and trustworthy. and it's all safe and secure. And they even have some downloads here, some videos on how to use it. So there's a little video here that.
Are you like Bob? Every day, Bob went online to read his email, check his online banking, and connect on social networks. And just like you, Bob was constantly typing up usernames and passwords for all of his logins. Sometimes he couldn't even remember what his passwords were. Then Bob tried LastPass, a secure password manager. With LastPass, Bob's life is easier. He just adds his passwords to his LastPass vault, and the next time he visits the site, LastPass logs in for him. Since his data is encrypted and decrypted locally, Bob knows his information is safe. And the best part? LastPass keeps Bob's data securely synced across all of his services.
Anyway, you can check that out if you're interested in it. Safe and secure product with that, and RoboForm. And RoboForm, if you're interested, is www.roboform.com. As you can see, I use RoboForm, and when you click, well, there's a free trial. You could use it for a period of time with full feature. And I want to say what you want here is RoboForm for the desktop here, which is basically RoboForm everywhere. Oh, no, it's not. Here it is, the first one. RoboForm everywhere, now only $9.95 for the first year. That's what I use, that's what I recommend. And like I say, if you get a new computer, what's great is you can just download the latest version of RoboForm, install it, and then put your RoboForm name and password in, and you automatically go to their servers online, grab all your passwords, and now the two computers are synced up with the same information.
Does it deal with these keyword things you always have to add in all these sentences? They ask what your mother's been.
Oh, your security question, will you have to enter that? Yeah, because as far as I know, there isn't a way to, I could be wrong on this, but I haven't figured out a way to automate that. When the security questions come up, I still have to answer those manually. And there are some sites where RoboForm doesn't help me too much. If I go to log into my bank, it comes up with a virtual keypad for the password, and I have to click the mouse on each letter. RoboForm won't do that for me, but it'll enter my account for me, my account info. There are some sites where it wants a user ID, where RoboForm it says I don't see anything. Once you put the user ID in, it says what's your password, and then RoboForm will kick in and put the password in. So it just depends on the website what kind of interface they have. But more times than not, what I do with RoboForm is I have little notes. So when I log into one of my credit cards, I click RoboForm, it doesn't do anything. I'm like, oh, I don't know what my user ID is. And I just look at the notes for that I've got set for that site on RoboForm, and it says user ID is, I made a note. User ID is, and then I enter it. Yes?
Two questions. I downloaded Malware, and I thought it was indefinite. I just was notified that it's expired.
Malware Bytes?
Yeah.
Malware Bytes is this great program that I recommend for, not everything is viruses these days. There's other malicious software or malware. And they sell two versions of it. They sell a one-year license and they sell a lifetime license. And I always recommend you buy the lifetime license, because the lifetime license isn't your lifetime, it's for the lifetime of the computer. So if you get a new computer, you're supposed to buy another license. But unlike most PC security software that requires an annual renewal, with Malware Bytes you can pay for it once and don't have to bother with it anymore. However, they did sell, I believe they still do sell, an annual license for a little less money. Let's see, Malware Bytes Pro. They have a free version, but the free version won't do anything to help prevent infections. It'll just help clean up infections after the fact, and you have to update it yourself. The Pro version will help prevent the infections, and it updates itself automatically. If I click on Buy Now, let's see if it offers both versions here. This shows a home license, one license per PC for $24.95. And it doesn't say. Let's see if we click on more info. you know, this doesn't say, it should be a lifetime license. If I were you, I would contact the folks at Malware Bytes. Have you tried to reach out to them? I would contact their support. Did this happen recently? It recently expired? And I would tell them, you're under the impression you bought a lifetime license. And see what they tell you. I've had somebody that also happened to about a year ago. And they explained that when they had the option to buy, they had an option to buy a 1 year or a lifetime. They chose the 1 year, but to keep the customer happy, they went ahead and just gave them the lifetime license. Hopefully they'll do the same for you.
I'm not sure that I think, I may have just went with the free download, but I thought that was, can I just go and ask for another free download, and even if I'm willing to update it myself?
Well, the free version is free for everybody.
But it expired. That's
Free version, the free version doesn't expire. It may come out with a new update that you have to install, but it doesn't expire. The software has to be updated. If you downloaded Malware Bytes 2 years ago and you haven't updated it in 2 years, it's not going to work. You'll have to uninstall it and download it again. If you've been keeping up with the updates, and I'm talking the free version, because the paid version, you'd never be in that situation. They change the software. The threats change, and it's not enough to simply update the databases. Every once in a while, they have to change the way the software works, and that requires installing a new version. So after a couple of months of the new version, they don't support the old version anymore. They simply tell you get the new one. So if that's what you mean by expired,
You said expired, so.
I've never seen that before, but what I would do if it's the free version and not the paid version is I would simply uninstall it, go back to Malware Bytes and download the current version, and that should solve it. We have other questions? If you're interested, I have a YouTube page, which is www.youtube.com/Carey Holzman, that's me. And that takes you to my main page. And here on my YouTube page, you'll see I've got 15,000 subscribers and 1.5 million views on my videos. And what we can do is click Browse Videos. And I've got a number of how-to videos here. So for example, there's this video series called Quick Tips, where I offer quick tips about, well, in this case, how to check your computer's memory to determine if it's bad or not. I've got a review of a Seagate external hard drive. I've got a review here of these computer glasses. They're intended for people who spend a lot of time in front of the screen. They've got like a yellow tint to them, and they're supposed to ease eye strain. I don't know if they really work or not, but I've got a video here on how to build a computer and how I'm diagnosing a computer. If that's at all of any interest to you, you're welcome to watch these. They're completely free. This is all about remote access using TeamViewer. TeamViewer is a free program you can use to access remotely another computer anywhere in the world that's also turned on and connected to the internet. And I show how to download that, install it, and use it. The company sent me flashlights to review, so I reviewed them. In this video, let me scroll down, we've got more quick tips here. Click the load more button here. This is always fun. Some of the first videos I made are blowing the dust out of the computer. Those cans of compressed air can get kind of expensive, and when they get cold, they lose pressure. So I figured out another way to do it, which is more economically and economically sound. All right, this computer was built in about 2005. Of course, it's 2009 now. And the customer says he's never cleaned it. So they're having some problems with it, not surprisingly. And you can see even the cables themselves, if this camera will focus, are completely coated in dust. The whole bottom of the computer is just filled with dust. This is the end of my fun one. You can just smell. Yeah, if you smoke it's really bad on getting the dust out because it gets all sticky. I've got another one here that's really, really bad. I'm going to show you. I was hoping I was going to get it. Let us try. Maybe that one's it. Okay, got a computer dropped off for repair today. And judging by the looks of it, I think it's going to be really... I hope this isn't somebody's in the room. Dusty inside. Let's see how bad is it. Oh my God. Oh, wow. Holy moly. Look at that. We do live in a desert, and it doesn't take long for stuff like this to build up. Well, take a couple of years to be like that. The wind just outside is blowing the dust around. That's insane. That is absolutely crazy. All right. Let's see if we can leave the panel here. It's probably going to blow around a little bit, but it needs to be cleaned out. Let's get this a little safe distance away. All right, here we go. Yeah, it's a leaf blower. So with the leaf blower, it's an electric leaf blower because a gas leaf blower would probably blow it into the neighbor's yard. We don't want that. But with the electric leaf blower, the pressure is low enough. And they've got them cordless now, which is even better because the air pressure is not quite as strong as the electric one. But it's not going to hurt the computer. We don't want to touch anything with we don't want the leaf blower to physically touch the computer. We just, in 20, 30 seconds, we've got it completely blown out. And I mean, that would have taken a whole can of compressed air. So, yeah, I think after that one, I had to get a new camera after that. But you can see the difference now. I mean, you'd never even tell it had any dust in it. So I was so glad when I figured that out. I'm like, I think this will work. And then a lot of people said, oh, you'll break the computer. And I started making videos to prove to them it doesn't break the computer. But when you have a lot of dust built up in the computer, it's like wearing a jacket. The computer can't cool as effectively. And what can also happen is the fans will gain weight and become off balance from the dust sitting on them. And they can start getting noisy. And usually after that, the bearings will be shot and you'll have to replace the fans. But better to do that while the fan's still turning than to wait till you have a computer problem where your fan isn't turning, the thing overheats, and then it's time for some new parts, which could cost a lot of money.
Thank you very much, Carey, but our time is up, so we'll take one more question.
Last question. Yes, sir.
Hang on.
Well, get you the mic.
Could you just give that address of your YouTube one more time?
Yeah, my YouTube page is www.youtube.com/Carey, C-A-R-E-Y. My last name is Holzman, H-O-L-Z-M-A-N. Just run those all together as one word with no spaces. And that'll take you right to my page. You just click the browse videos. Hey, thank you very much for coming out to see me. I've got some business cards up here if you guys feel free to take one. And I'll see you again next time. Thanks again.
Thank you, Carey. Tremendous.